So we're going to talk again about more money, more problems. Yes, I'm quoting Biggie. And let me tell you about the scenario that I call waiting for it to get worse. And this happens a lot. Here's a situation where the situation that you're aware of, you've decided it's not a big deal. And so you've told yourself, I'm going to tell my attorney at some particular point, but let me wait until it gets worse. Maybe it will work itself out. And whenever I see those things, I just take my glasses off and put my hand over my eyes, because I'm like, look, why would you do that? Why am I telling you shouldn't do that? Because what you're telling me is that you've taken the calculated risk that you've said to yourself, let me see if this thing can kind of fix itself so I ain't got to pay no more money. Trust me. Let me say this again. I got partners who have attorneys who've called me because they're trying to save a couple dollars. Respect, I understand. And they'll tell me, well, this is a situation there, Reeves, man. I'm thinking about this. This looks like this might be a problem. And I'm like, it is a problem. And when are you gonna tell your attorney? Well, it ain't that bad yet. And I'm always like, stop. You should not go to your attorney when it is bad. If it's bad now, don't say, well, it hasn't gotten that bad yet. No, we're not, you don't want them to work on it when it's that bad. You want them to work on it when it's bad, because when it's bad, it's small enough so that it may cost you some money, but maybe not as much as you think. If you wait until it gets that bad, and see, what happens is what you're telling me is effectively, you're thinking that this situation is a situation that should resolve itself in such a manner that if it works itself out, you don't have to worry about paying your attorney, because look here, you ain't trying to pay your attorney, you're using your credit cards, you're taking out loans. I get that, I understand that. I've had friends of mine who've been in that situation. But here's the downside. What happens if this situation keeps getting worse? And then you have to go to your attorney. And then you really get a heart attack, because they look at you and they basically say, okay, to fix that problem, this is what needs to happen. And then they give you the lovely response like they do in doctor's office. Had you come to me sooner, I could have done it. And then all of a sudden you're around here with your face all cracked. Listen, I understand. If you've hired an attorney, especially if you're paying for one via retainer fee, you're trying to keep as much money as yourself as possible. You try not to do anything at all to give them the need to have to basically charge you anymore. I get that. But if you hired them to help you deal with a problem and you realize that the problem is starting to get worse, the worst thing you can do is put yourself in a situation where you're thinking, I'll wait until it gets really bad and then bring it to their attention. Because what's happening is in your mind, you're thinking that when it gets this bad, this is how much I think it's gonna cost. And then what ends up happening is when you bring it around, they hit you with that rump shaker. You're like, oh, I didn't realize. Yeah, had you brought it in sooner. So if you find yourself in a situation where you have a problem and you're trying to decide whether or not you should wait to see if it resolves itself before bringing it to your attorney, how about you get them to quote you and so forth? Go to them and say, listen, this is the problem. I think it's going to resolve itself out. How much would it cost for me for you to resolve it now? And if it gets worse, how much would it cost for me to have you take care of it then? They'll tell you. And trust me, if they come at you and tell you it's the difference between, this amount of $100 now and maybe a couple $1,000s later, you're probably gonna move on it now. So before you make the decision of waiting until it maybe passes so that you don't have to worry about doing that, ask your attorney to quote you to let you know how much it costs if they could address it now and how much it's gonna cost you if it gets bad.